All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're unpacking a really provocative piece of writing called The Economics of Salvation by 2W. Gilberto Poit. And it challenges us to look at faith and the afterlife, but not through a spiritual lens. No, through the sharp, analytical lens of economics. It's a fascinating take. So, the author kicks things off with this bombshell of a question. Think about it. You want a visa to another country? It's a mountain of paperwork, interviews, money. It's tough. So why, he asks, is getting a ticket to a perfect heavenly city so often sold as, well, basically free? And right off the bat, he highlights this huge contradiction. On the one hand, you've got earthly nations, high cost, strict rules, you got to prove your worth. But on the other hand, a promised heaven that's supposedly free, open to everyone, and all you need is a verbal confession. It's this massive contrast that really gets the whole argument rolling.
This leads us to what the author calls the heavenly visa paradox. So how is this promise even built? Let's break down the architecture of this very convenient promise.
So here's the sales pitch, right? It's super accessible, it's democratic, open to all, it's guaranteed just by saying the right words, and it's totally unconditional no matter what you've done. I mean, it sounds almost too good to be true, doesn't it? And that's exactly the author's point. Does it actually make any logical sense? And that's the big philosophical question he throws at us. Wouldn't a perfect divine city actually operate on stricter principles than our own flawed societies? You'd think the highest form of order would be the most demanding, not the least. This question, it's really the heart of the whole thing. Okay, so this brings us to the author's core idea, framing salvation as an invisible commodity. It's like salvation itself is a product being sold in a very unique marketplace. So, what exactly is commodified salvation? Well, it's when a spiritual idea is treated just like something you'd buy in a store. Access is promised, the rewards are marketed like crazy, but, and this is the absolute key, there's zero evidence. You can't verify it, you can't test it, the product is never actually delivered in this lifetime. And get this quote, "Spiritual leaders act as brokers of invisible property." It's such a powerful metaphor, isn't it? It's like a real estate agent trying to sell you a beautiful plot of land that you can never, ever see. The author then breaks down this transaction of faith into 3 simple steps. First, a promise is made. You get an eternal reward. Second, an investment is requested. Your belief, your money, your offerings. And third, verification is totally impossible. There's no paperwork, no proof of purchase. It's a classic speculative investment. And this leads to a pretty shocking conclusion from the author. Quote, "In any earthly transaction, this would be called fraud. In religious language, it is called faith." Wow, I mean, that really puts a fine point on it, doesn't it? So, if salvation is the product, what's the currency? Well, the author argues that unexamined belief itself becomes the currency. And this is a really critical point. Belief is not neutral. Belief is power. It's not just some quiet, personal feeling. The author argues it has a real-world function, real-world power, especially when it's just given away without asking any hard questions. So what is the function of this deferred paradise? Well, according to the text, it can act as a pacifier for injustice, a substitute for real liberation, a justification for suffering, and a way to delay any kind of resistance. Basically, if you're focused on the next life, you're a lot less likely to fight for a better one now. And here's the bottom line on that. A people waiting for heaven are way easier to govern than a people demanding justice on earth. That's the political utility of this idea, right there. Okay, so where did this specific theology even come from? The author says it's not some timeless universal truth. It has a history, and he calls it the colonial shadow of heaven. And he connects it directly to a governing philosophy built for control. Think about it. During the era of slavery, heaven was heavily emphasized. Obedience was made to seem spiritual. Any kind of resistance was seen as demonic. And suffering, it was romanticized. The message was pretty clear. Your reward is in the next life, so just be obedient in this one. Which leads to this incredibly powerful statement: this theology did not fall from the sky. It arrived on ships. It wasn't just some abstract idea. It was an ideology, a tool, brought over for a specific, practical purpose. And what was that purpose? Quote, "Heaven became the psychological compensation for stolen land, stolen labor, and stolen dignity." It was offered as a trade-off for the very real things being stripped away from people right here on Earth. So, after all this critique, what's the alternative? The author doesn't just tear things down. He proposes a different way to think about it all, about the true cost of belief. And he lays out this incredible contrast. On one side, you have the marketed heaven. It's easy, unconditional. You get in with slogans. You can maybe bribe your way in with offerings. But on the other, what he calls the logical heaven, that would be demanding and just. You get in through consciousness, not slogans, and it would be totally immune to manipulation. The whole point being, freedom, historically, psychologically, spiritually, has never been free. Anything truly valuable, whether it's freedom in this world or the next, has to have a real cost. It requires work, it requires thought. It's not just a freebie. And let's be super clear here. The author makes a point to say this. This is not an argument against spirituality. It is an argument against spiritual laziness. It's not about destroying faith. It's about demanding a more rigorous, more conscious version of it. So what's the call to action? It's pretty straightforward. Think deeply. Question bravely. Learn to separate real faith from manipulation. And, maybe most importantly, refuse to outsource your own consciousness. It's all about being an active participant in your own belief system. And that leaves us with the author's final lingering question, and it's really a challenge to all of us. If truth can withstand scrutiny, what is the real cost of belief? It flips the whole idea of a free heaven on its head and asks us to really think about the price of our own convictions. So I'll leave you with that. What is the real cost of what you believe?